Hello, everybody. Hi, Ciaro. We're here very early. So, we're like finishing multiple things potentially. I mean, we're not quite finishing the green and yellow batt because we do have to still spin the companion to it and then also fly it, of course. But we're done spinning it after this, which is very exciting. And then after that, yeah, we're going to be, I think, finishing up the last of the cotton experiments as well. I'm still trying to figure out a good way to like do the weight experiment, which I think is a little more pressing, while also still having like a, I don't know if fair is the right word, but more accurate maybe way to test the wool-wise versus Samwise spin, because I'm still very curious, but I also feel like I could maybe test that like a dozen times and never have a conclusive answer. So I don't know. It might be something that I have to come back to after the blanket, because I assume that once I've spun an entire blanket's worth, I will hopefully be good enough at spinning cotton that I can, do a better test. So it's possible we'll do that. Sort of depends. Okay. I saw your cotton experiment post. I love that it's so difficult, like, for either of us to get a conclusive result. It's very funny to me. That makes sense. You were thinking of trying it again too. Yeah. I mean, I really want to know, but just like the things that were messing me up in my first test, they're still applicable now. So I just don't know if like I'll get anything out of it, or like maybe I don't know, like because if I get the exact opposite result today, that also would still be inconclusive, right? Like really, I need quite a lot of tests, or I need to be a lot better at it. I don't know which. But I just don't know if I'm going to get helpful info at the moment. I was thinking about it a lot. You did the Samwise first, and were so tired when you started doing the Woolwise. Interesting. I think I did it the opposite way. Yeah, that's the problem. Like, I feel like we're also looking for something that is maybe in some ways subjective, right? Because we're looking for which is easier. But your spinning experience, as both of us have have realized, like that depends on many factors, not just the fiber. And so it's hard to be objective about it, especially with so little data. But even with a lot more data, I feel like which is easier to spin is kind of inherently a subjective question. An interesting one, though, for sure. So I've been trying to figure out, I know what I'm going to apply this green stuff with now, which is more green stuff, but I don't know like how exactly I'm going to do it. I was kind of thinking of doing a thicker yarn for the other ply and making a gimp yarn, because I do like those. Texturally, I find them very satisfying, but also I don't think I could fit an equivalent amount of yardage on just one bobbin. That is the kind of logistical issue that tends to make me avoid that sort of thing. If you were definitely going to knit with it, you might just do wool-wise anyway. The other way untwists when you knit. Interesting. Yeah, I guess wool-wise also untwists when I knit. Or no, Samwise untwists when I knit, and then wool-wise gets a little bit extra twist. I assume that's just to do with the way that you wrap your yarn, I'd guess. I did like experiment a little bit when I was knitting my flax and southdown hat, with because I was doing it in the round, and when I knit flat, I tend to twist my stitches on the stockinette side and then untwist them uh, on the purl side, just because that's just how I learned. It's the Russian speed knitting style, so that's what I do. But that is not how I knit in the round. I seem to just knit like more continental style in the round. And I was trying to figure out if I could sort of do my usual flat knitting style in the round, but it really doesn't work that way. So I don't know, like if I could change my knitting style to suit the yarn, I totally would, but I can't quite figure it out. It's sort of harder than I was hoping it would be. Usually you can do it either way without any trouble, but you usually knit one way. It wasn't until you were teaching your spouse that you realized that other people don't just adjust as they come across a stitch. Interesting. I do feel like that's always when I notice weird things like that, is when I'm trying to teach other people as well. It's quite relatable. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have at this point knit a lot of swatches, well, a lot of washcloths, with a Samwise twisted cotton, and they've been fine. Like as long as I have adequate twist to begin with, it doesn't really matter. If I have inadequate twists already, that's when it starts becoming an actual issue. But that's not an issue I'm having now. Like now that I've switched to the medium wool, it's all adequately twisted or close enough. So yeah, I just don't know if it even would matter at this particular stage for me. But yeah, so I was thinking of doing a GIMP yarn, which is one side is way bigger than the other. And then I was also kind of thinking about spinning half the amount, either half or double the amount of what I have here. And then whichever one is longer, turning that into a ply bracelet and making a 3-ply with that. Which is like I've done that before, but the main thing holding me back, or at least making me reticent to actually do it, is the fact that this is so thin and there's so much of it that I really super do not want to turn that into a fly bracelet. So most likely I would do a slightly thicker yarn for the other one, and just not, yeah, only spin half the amount. That's probably the easiest way to do it. But yeah, that's my other idea. I don't know. It's hard to pick because I don't have a plan for this yarn, so I can't really pick what would be most suited to my project because I don't have a project in mind. But I do think it would be far more durable as a 3-ply, and so that is sort of why I'm kind of thinking maybe it really should be a 3-ply. I don't know. Open to suggestions on it for sure. Maybe it doesn't matter so much with cotton. I don't know how many things are different. Yeah, that's the other thing is like, even if we figure it out for cotton, that still leaves literally every other plant fiber. Because the way that I've heard this with the Samwise twist thing, the way that I've heard it is that all plant fibers prefer to be spun the opposite way to wool. I have also heard a couple people say it's just linen, or a couple people say it's just bast fiber. But I feel like it's vague enough and untested enough that I would need to test like every possible plant fiber I could get my hands on to actually feel like I had a conclusive answer. Which almost makes me feel like maybe it just needs to be an experiment of its own, with me trying a whole bunch of different plant fibers and seeing what happens. I don't know. That would probably be more doable, honestly. You know, you have to take breaks plying, so you never do bracelets. That's fair. I guess, like, I wouldn't do a big bracelet with something that is fragile or difficult to take on or off. But personally, I find I don't usually have a problem removing the bracelet from my hands. But I have seen, like, there are sort of plying tools or hands, sometimes they're called, where you make the ply bracelet onto that and it just never goes onto your wrist, and so you can always put it back down. I don't have enough qualms about plying bracelets for it to be useful to me, but maybe it would unlock some new types of, well, not new types of spinning, but new like methods of spinning. I don't know. But that said, I know what you mean. I also have to take breaks plying most of the time. It's like, it's weird. It feels like more effort, or maybe just a little bit harder on my body than spinning does. Even though, like, spinning, I'm actually doing way more with my hands, right? And using my brain a lot more too. I think maybe it's the fact that plying, you're just like, it's just an endurance thing, honestly. You're just doing the same thing over and over and over again until you're finally done. Which is also kind of true of spinning, but it just feels more involved than plying does. Maybe that's just me, but I feel that way even when I'm chain plying, to be honest. Because like chaining is just not, it's nowhere near as difficult as spinning is. Not to say that spinning is difficult necessarily, but I mean. So what are you working on today? Are you still working in your room? I don't know why, but the more of this green and yellow bat that I spin, the more breaks I have. Like when I first started spinning it, I was getting basically no breaks. It would never snap on me, if I remember correctly. But now it's like kind of frequent breaks. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever had that happen before. If I'm doing something different or what. You are done warping and about halfway done weaving. You're also trying to finish a knitted top. Nice. That was fast warping. That's awesome. You find sometimes there are just shorter spots in fiber preps. That's true. I'm definitely not the most even bat maker at the best of days. Like the only time when I actually put effort into making a nice, even, consistent bat is if it's gonna go to somebody else. So if it's like a gift or something I plan on selling. But I'm making bats for myself. Like I know that I can and will deal with terrible uneven fiber preps. So I just deal with it. But I mean, that said, I don't feel like I was necessarily that bad when I did this one. And this is the second bat that I did in a row. The first one did not have that issue when I spun it up. And it's like, it just keeps doing that. But I also, like, I don't know what else it could be other than shorter fibers. So I think you're probably right. I don't know, maybe I was just flagging or something. Not having my brain cells working at that point. It wouldn't be the first time. I will say I'm going to have to take a very quick intermission about 29 minutes from now because I have rice in my rice cooker and I want to put vegetables in there and then turn it off once it's done so that they cook a little. So when that goes off, I will have to briefly get up. That should be more than like a minute or two. It's a small warp, so it's not that impressive. I don't know. I mean, I've warped a lot, and I still find every warp to be somewhat impressive. So, there we go. I think you're selling yourself short. Even in commercial top, you sometimes just find areas where the fibers are shorter and you have to adjust. I mean, I feel like commercial is sort of worlds away from handmade, though. Like with commercial, nobody's really stopping to, what's the word? To sort of adjust for what they're getting. Whereas, like, if I'm sitting down and combing a whole bunch of nests of top, I am 100% adjusting for what I'm doing. And I think pretty much everybody who at least has the knowledge to do so is going to, right? Whereas in the commercial stuff, it's just going to be what it is. I'm not adjusting for that sort of thing at all. I don't know. That's my thought on it. But also, fiber is fiber, so maybe that's nonsense. Hard to say. Dinner is important. Yes, very important. I finally learned the lesson of I have to either eat dinner before streaming or get dinner going before streaming. Because if I don't, I finish the stream and I'm like, cool, time for bed. And I just go to bed. And I also don't eat breakfast and have a very small lunch at work. So it's not great when I do that like a week in a row. Causes a couple problems for sure. That makes sense. That a bat is kind of an in-between, I think. It definitely is not comparable to most other fiber types. I agree with you there. Because like when I'm doing a bat, like one, you usually make one or maybe a couple, but you're not going to go spin them and then make more or anything like that. You don't really get feedback on it until you're done. So adjusting for it is harder. So that's true. And also, it's less of a prep and more of a modification, in my opinion, because you have to use fibers that have already been prepared. You cannot simply put raw fleece on there or washed fleece or whatever. You can't do that. You have to make it spinnable before you put it on the thing if you want it to be spinnable. So it is definitely different from most other fiber preps, if we call it that. You're right about that one, for sure. When I first got my blending board, I was like, I didn't realize that because it's not. I don't think I've ever read in a book about making bats or read in a post about making bats that you have to use pre-prepared fiber and it has to be spinnable as you put it on. Maybe that's intuitive to everyone but me, or maybe like everybody else is out here making terrible bats. I really don't know. It could be either because I've spun some bad bats made by other people, so I don't know, and made them myself for the same reasons. But when I figured that out, like I was kind of upset because I got the blending board. If I remember correctly, the order of this, I got the blending board, and then I also had gotten some fleece at the same time. And my plan had been to sort of prepare it on the board, turn it into a bat, and spin it. And I didn't have any hand cards at the time. So I bought that. It was very expensive, and then I immediately had to go get hand cards afterwards because I had literally nothing I could put on there. Those were the days when I did not have 50 to 60 pounds of wool, within arm's reach at any given time in my apartment. I do now, so it wouldn't exactly be an issue now, but back in the day. That is, oh man, I can't read the order that these come in. You honestly don't have much experience with bats. You were thinking they come from a drum carder. Yeah, they can. They can come from a drum carder or they can come from a blending board. The drum carder is a lot more expensive, so that is why I have the blending board. Um, I think they perform similar but not identical functions in that a blending board is never going to open up your fibers unless you literally use it like a hand card, which is not easy, not efficient, and not a very good idea. Whereas a drum carder kind of will to an extent. And unfortunately, it seems like, especially people who make fiber but don't spin fiber, which is sort of, there seems to be a growing number of those types of people. We don't know that, one, it has to be fully washed if you want the drum carder to really be able to open it up. And two, it does not remove grime or dirt or VM. And three, it also does not really open things up as well. So when I was doing that CVM, that was clearly the product of somebody who did not know any of those things. And it was a huge pain due to that. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely do more opening up on a drum carder in my also limited experience, because I've used them, but I don't own one. So I haven't used them a ton. But you can't do very much. And that's also what my friends who have drum carders have said as well. That's annoying. You'd be so upset if you had to go buy another tool to use your new tool. Yeah, no. But I mean, on the other hand, if I had gone any longer without getting hand cards, I would have been totally missing out. Because they're awesome. So, like, at the time I was annoyed, but in retrospect, I'm not annoyed anymore. I'm just happy that I have hand cards. My knees are not thrilled with my activities today, I will say that. So there is a non-zero possibility that I may have to call the stream early and possibly abruptly, although I hope not. But if they dislocate, I will be ending the stream immediately. Just because ow. Serious ow. So yeah, just a heads up on that. Hopefully that will not happen. Knock on wood. But it might, so that's why I'm warning you. I don't think they've ever dislocated from spinning before, but you know, there's unfortunately a first time for it. It could happen. I would really like to get a drum carder. It's something I've been thinking about recently, because theoretically, I could afford one. I have many credit cards with no money on them, so I could pretty easily buy it on a credit card and just slowly pay it off, and it really would not be an issue. They're definitely too expensive for me to just buy one outright, even having planned it. That could not happen. But like, they're so fast, especially if I got one that wasn't a hand crank, which I would, because no way. Like, I could make so many bats. So many bats. It would be really nice. It's very fun to make bats. It's very different on a drum carder versus on a blending board, but it's still fun either way. I would really like to, and I could more easily sell them, is sort of the other thing, because I have more fiber than I think I'll ever spin at this point, so that would maybe be a reason as well. But I don't know. I have to think about it. That's no good. You haven't been spinning wool because your shoulder keeps dislocating, so you can't prep any. Ah, that sucks. Shoulders dislocating is also not very fun. And I feel like they pop out so easily. Maybe that's just me with my 1,000 time dislocated shoulders. But like, oh my god. I feel like all I have to do is like try and use my arm, and it can and will dislocate just from normal arm usage. I hope your shoulder gets a little bit more stable soon. That would be like, I mean, that's why I want a drum garter, is because I have very bad shoulders and very bad wrists and hands and elbows and everything else. So like, if I had a drum garter, I actually could prep whether or not I was feeling okay. And at the moment, prepping is like by far the most physically intensive part of spinning for me. I think that's true for most people, to be honest. In spinning, you're sitting there and you're moving your legs, if that, and your arms a tiny bit. But prepping, you tend to have to put a little bit of muscle in. So yeah, I don't know. I'm considering it. I would love a new fiber tool. It also seems very foolish to buy a new fiber tool, especially when as expensive as that. Then I don't know how much longer I have left to spend. But also, it's like, I don't know. You know, I'm not going to care about my credit card debt if I'm dead. So, like, who gives a shit at a certain point? That's my 2 cents anyway. We are almost done. The very last bit of this, I'm happy to announce. Although I was just reviewing one of my plans in my head, the one where I would spin like a different amount of the other one, and then hold the bigger one doubled, if that makes any sense. And I realized, like, kind of no matter what I do, I'm going to be doing a ton of ply bracelet making, which isn't super appealing. Like, I like making ply bracelets for small things. I find that very enjoyable. But for big things, it can be so miserable. Especially because if it snaps, which I don't think this would, but it could, it's certainly thin enough to snap pretty easily. If it snaps, you may well end up with a huge nightmare. A huge tangled nightmare. If I don't want. I don't know. I'm very indecisive. Though I know. But yeah, at least we're almost done with this one. And I think it's quite likely that I will, like that tomorrow's stream or whatever the next stream is, I think it's quite likely that I will be finishing off this wool yarn instead of starting the cotton yarn, because I want all my bobbins free, you know? But I also might just do it on my e-spinner. It's also a possibility. We'll have to see. I think the main slowdown is going to be the fact that I do unfortunately have to prep all of that fiber because it's dyed fleece. It's pretty open and it doesn't have any VM, so at least there's that. It should be quicker to prep than I'm excited for my rice tonight. When I was at the grocery store buying more rice at the off demand, they had like forbidden rice on sale, is what it is called apparently. And it just looks like black short grain, whole germ or whatever it's called, rice. But I bought it just because like it was on sale and I was vaguely curious and it was actually cheaper than the brown rice I was getting. So why not? But then I was looking it up today before I put it in my rice cooker. And apparently it tastes really, really good. So I'm very excited. I really love rice anyway, but rice that people specifically say tastes incredible. And it's not white rice, and it has the germ and everything on it. That's very exciting. I'm not a white rice fan at all. My parents never ever bought white rice, so I pretty much only had it at restaurants or if we got takeout or something like that. And it doesn't have a lot of flavor to me. Brown rice has a ton of flavor. It tastes kind of nutty. It's delicious. But white rice is kind of just bland, and it's also not as good for you. So I basically never have white rice. But also, the stores near me pretty much only carry one kind of brown rice, which is basmati, which is good, but you can't change it up very easily. So yeah, I'm excited. You like that stuff? Nice. Your favorite rice is red. You don't like brown at all, but you like other colors. Interesting. I've had red in like a mix that I bought once of various different whole rices. I don't know what the word for that is. Like non-white rice, basically. But I wasn't really able to like pick out any difference in flavor. It looks very pretty though. I'll have to try it if I find it on its own. I love that there's so many different kinds of rice. That is something that genuinely makes me happy. And the way that there's so many different kinds of potatoes, even if most of them are not like popular or known or viable in the United States, still the fact that they exist is so nice. Tomatoes too. I love tomatoes. I have quite tragically developed some kind of tomato allergy. Which is incredibly tragic because I used to live off of tomatoes in the summer. We would always have big gardens. Well, I would always have big gardens. My mom when I was younger. And typically, at least when I still lived in California, which is a great place to grow tomatoes, I would have huge, huge amounts of tomatoes and many tomato plants. And I would basically just eat them like apples constantly. And it was very good. I wish I could do that again, but I have nowhere to grow tomatoes and I can't really eat them anymore. If they're cooked, it's not as bad on me, but they don't taste as good cooked. I don't know. I used to have a big garden too. You miss it. I make do with my indoor plants because it's quite literally all I can do, but it's not like having a garden at all. My indoor plants feel so static. Like they do grow, and I do kill them sometimes for sure. But the garden is like it goes so quickly, it responds to the weather and all the other conditions so quickly. It really feels quite alive. Whereas my house plants, though I know they are alive and I love them, they really don't have that same situation going on. I'm just glad I can grow houseplants though. If I couldn't, I would probably go insane. I need to look at plants like constantly, or I will just lose my mind. You just sit out there and eat all kinds of veggies. Yeah, that's the best part about having a garden. 100%. It's just like going out to the garden, finding something that's ripe and eating it 1 second after picking it. That's when you get the best fruit and the best vegetables. Usually in the spring, Um, I would have a whole bunch of pea plants, because that's one of the few vegetables that I like that will grow so early in this region. And um, there is nothing like going out to the garden to pick a whole bunch of snap peas, and then like they don't even make it inside. You just eat them all right there as you're picking them. Best snap pea experience ever. Unfortunately, not something that money can really buy. I feel like a lot of snap peas tend to get bitter the older they are, so it's like, yeah, you really can't get them as sweet as garden fresh ones, sadly. Yes, fresh peas are so good. You'd grow shelling peas and just sit out there and eat them. That sounds really fun. I love the whole, I don't know, the act of shelling things I've always enjoyed. One of the places I grew up, um, we moved around a lot, but this is, I think, the house I've lived in the longest, even now. It was a small house in the middle of a walnut orchard that we were renting. Um, and we were, part of the rental agreement was that we were allowed to have as much walnuts as we wanted. There would be people who would come out and pick them, um, totally unrelated to us, but you know, we could always pick the ones nearby and really pick as many. Unrelated to us, but you know, we could always pick the ones nearby and really pick as many. And I don't like walnuts. I had too many of them as a child, most of them uncooked. I really, really don't like them. If they're cooked, they're okay, but yeah. Uh, but we had a couple of little, like, just handheld walnut shelling machines. Um, and the main one that I used, because it was not very dangerous, was just like, actually, it kind of looked like the flyer a little bit, except there weren't any round parts, and you'd put the walnut here, and then you'd sort of pull a lever, and a cylinder would come back and crush it. So I would do that, and this was before I knew how to knit or spin or anything like that. Like I was a little kid, so um, so I hadn't yet found a good hobby that would use my hands, and I'm one of those people who always has to be using my hands. Um, so yeah, I would just sit out there and shell walnuts for hours and hours and hours, not a care in the world except for all the cares that I had. And just have a great time. And my parents, it made no sense to them because I wouldn't eat the walnuts. I had no interest in doing that. I would simply sit there and shell all of the walnuts, and sometimes feed them to my dog. Sometimes all of the walnuts. He likes opening them too, though. So uh, he was very good at it. He wouldn't eat the shell. He'd just like crack it in his mouth and then sort of open it with his snout. It was pretty impressive. He's a damn good dog. I'm not a dog person at all, but he's a good dog. All right, we're done. I should have shared that to you guys. That was so fast. Now the colors, keep in mind, they're still not accurate. They will never be accurate on my laptop screen, but it's a decent amount of yarn, and it's like, I don't know, it's lace weight maybe. I'm not good at estimating yarn weight when it's a singles. I think if I 3-ply it like I intend to, it will probably be like DK weight or something like that. Maybe a light worsted, depending. But yeah, I'm happy with it. I think it turned out well, and it's pretty soft too. It's more than I expected. You're allergic to walnuts, unfortunately. They're the only nut that grows here. Ah, that's too bad. Green looks nice though. Yeah, I love everything about walnuts except for eating them. I love walnut trees. They have such a specific smell that is so imprinted on my brain. I really love that. Um, and when I was a kid, me and my sister, because like it didn't snow where we lived, it was way too far south for that. So Instead of having snowball fights, we would have walnut fights. Those things leave a bruise, let me tell you. Even if it's being thrown by somebody who is not very strong at all, they can leave quite a bruise. But it was very fun. All right. I don't know if you heard if the sound carried enough, but that was my rice cooker going off. So going to very quickly go add the vegetables to my rice. And in the meantime, I don't know, maybe I can set this up so this is a thing on the screen. I'll try. Well, it's not perfect, but yeah. I'll be right back. Give me 1 minute, and that actually should be all the time I need. Okay, I'm back. Thank you for waiting. Appreciate it. So, cotton time. I think you might try some walnut dyeing this fall, but we'll see. Nice. I really want to try walnut dyeing. I haven't lived somewhere where I could find walnuts very easily. Since long before I started spinning. Like there's always walnut trees around, just they don't fall in a good location. So, all right. So I'm gonna have my little scale here, electronic scale. I really like this brand, by the way. I don't know what it says. I'm not gonna lie, but it's a very good little scale, and it's pretty accurate up to the gram, at least as far as I can tell. I've had quite a few electric scales, and the other ones were not so good. But this one at least gives me the same reading every time, so I think that's a good sign. And I've had good luck baking bread on it too. So that is also a good sign, because I was not having good luck with my other scales, let me tell you. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weigh a handful like this. I'll weigh that first, and then I'll put it on the cards, and then I'll weigh what remains, because I feel like that's gonna be maybe the easiest way to do it. Wow, 3 grams. Okay, I'm realizing there's gonna be a lot of margin for error here, due to the fact that this entire handful is only 3 grams. So, yeah, and it doesn't show partial grams, unfortunately. I wish it did, but those ones tend to get really expensive. So there's going to be some room for error, but I'm hoping we can get an accurate result. I kind of didn't consider that, that it would be so incredibly light. I really should have. Oh well, that's okay. What was some? Oh, while I was out there, yeah. Uh, I tend to make noises like that. I'm fine though. Thank you for asking. I guess another thing I could do is weigh my empty card and then weigh my full card, or like use the empty one as a tear. I get there's a couple options. I suppose that will be part of what I'm experimenting with. Okay, so let me move that away. This is what this one looks like. I feel like that is a fairly typical amount of carding or amount of cotton to add. Maybe a little bit on the heavy side, which is probably good because we can go lighter for sure. And then if I weigh the remains, 1 gram. So that tells me I used very approximately 2/3 of that. Uh, I really wish I'd thought that through a little better. I don't actually know how helpful this will be because it could be, 3.9 ounces or 3.9 grams, or it could be, you know, 3 grams. And there's a big difference when we're working with such light quantities. So I don't know. Maybe I'll also try. I'll see if I can if I get a different reading. I'm kind of curious. So I'm currently tearing the empty one, and then I put on the full one, and it says 12 grams, which is definitely not correct. So let me try that again. Why? What? And what? It still says 12 grams. Okay, so that's not it's not gonna work, and I'm very confused now. Got it. What on earth? Where did it get 12 extra grams from? It's not a 1.2 either, because it doesn't have decimal points. So I could not be more confused by that. One thing I want to try at some point is going back to using wool cards and seeing if improving my technique makes it any easier on wool cards. I'm curious. I'm sure it will to some extent, but I guess I wonder if I can get a similar prep, because technique seems to matter a lot more with cotton than most other aspects of what I'm doing. And I don't feel that way with wool, so I don't know. Oh, I had a tiny bit left over. It got pulled off and it was hidden. Um, this is from the batt. I'll probably add it into the other fly. The cards might not weigh the same. That is a very good point that I did not consider. They might not weigh the same. They look identical, but I guess one could have a bunch of pith in it or something, and that would certainly be lighter. That's a good point. I'll have to weigh them, is what I have to do to figure that out. Now, there's a reason that I left this test for the end, and that reason is I kind of had to learn all the other things, or at least get an idea of all the other things before I could hope to have a good test. So, for example, I won't know what amount is better if I don't even know how to properly do it in the first place, right? So I'm hoping that my technique is now good enough that I'll be getting some helpful results. That's the first one. I don't know if I should. Oh, well, I don't know if I should spin them one by one or what, or if I should just do a bunch. Kind of a hard question. They both have their pros and cons. I don't know. Without having an accurate scale, which I hadn't considered, that I didn't have, it's difficult to say. I think I'm going to try making some that are 2, some that are 3, and maybe if there's another number that seems to work, I'll try that too. And we'll we'll just see how it goes, you know? Because, like, I feel like if the 2 gram ones end up being noticeably different, that'll be fairly easy to tell. 'Cause I can just spin all the 2 gram ones and then spin all the 3 gram ones and see if one of them's better prepared or not. I think that's what I'll do. Oh, right, I was going to weigh them. Okay. Truth. Okay. Right, I got it turned back. Okay. So one of them is 340 grams. The other one is 329 grams. Okay, you were right. Where they look identical. Where is the extra 11 grams hiding? Actually, one of them's quite a bit thicker. Okay, never mind. It's not. It's only thicker on part of it. I wonder if it'll be visible to you guys. There we go. Like right at the bottom, you can see it's. I don't know if I can align them. Yeah, you can see right at the bottom, it's definitely different. Well, that's that mystery solved. I guess I won't be using them. I'm using the cards to weigh it because I'm not gonna remember that. That's just gonna confuse me. But thank you for the suggestion. That is indeed. All right. Wow. I kind of can't believe this says it's 2 grams. And I can't even tell if that feels like it should be more than 2 grams or less than 2 grams. I guess one thing I could do is just add small amounts until it reaches 3 grams. And then I would know, or like do that with 2 grams, it'd be the same thing. Then I would know, potentially. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this one is exactly 3 grams, I think. So I'm going to put all of that on if I can. I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to get a somewhat accurate amount. So I need to stick to exactly 3 or exactly 2 for the most part, which kind of makes this guy a dud. But that's okay. It's just one. And I'll probably spin it anyway because who cares? Like I think just one is not going to change the overall feel. So all of this needs to go on. It kind of looks like a lot, to be honest. I guess I could also recard that one, but I don't know if it matters that much. Don't know if I'm not invested. Okay, this is a ton. This is, I think, more full than any one I've done so far. So I'm guessing it's going to be way too much, but I think that will give me a good benchmark. For like, this is what too much feels like. So I'm gonna do it anyway. The plan has definitely changed. Now that I know I can get at least accurate 1, 2, and 3 gram ones. Just exactly that amount, unfortunately. I figured it would have just been some difference in the wood. Yeah, I mean, these are factory seconds, to be fair. That's why I have them. All of my cards I've gotten from Howard's Brush Outlet Mall on Etsy, which is factory seconds Etsy, as far as I can tell. And so they all have some small defect, presumably. My wool cards, I actually have no idea what the defect is. I've never found it. I've had them for about 5 years, and they're still completely identical and beautiful and perfect. So, yeah, I don't know. But at least this one has an actual defect. That's good to know. Some of them have noticeable defects. I don't think that, I would pay the same amount. I do not feel cheated in any way, for sure. Do I know if it's always rounding one direction? This is probably not helpful since there's nothing I can do. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. I think it's actually possible it's not rounding at all. It might just be it's 3 until it's 4. So 3.9 is 3. I think that's what it is because it's not very fickle when it changes. Like, it'll give me the same thing consistently. Whereas I think if it was rounding, I would get a different amount at 3.4 versus 3.6, which is a very small difference, right? So I don't know. My guess is that it's actually not rounding, and it's simply whatever tips the scale to the next number, that's when it changes. But there isn't, I don't think there's a way for me to know that. It didn't say anything in the manual, so, and since I don't have a good test object, like if I had lead weights, that would be something, but I don't. I don't have anything that has a set weight on it, so I think it just kind of is what it is. We're going to try and get useful information out of this as best as we can. But also, like, I don't know anybody who has a scale that's accurate to fractions of a gram. Literally not anybody. I think the number of people who have that is quite small, at least where I live. Maybe it's different in Europe or somewhere that uses grams more frequently. I don't know. So if nothing else, if I can get some info that's helpful, then I'm using a tool that more people have access to, so it'd be helpful to more people. So at least there's that. Of course, that said, I assume that the amount that you could load depends 100% on, well, no, depends largely on the size of your cards, right? The surface area. So that's why in the description I put the size of my cards. So that at least if you have the same size, you could maybe start at that. But then I also think the weight of the fiber, like some fiber is going to weigh different amounts. Some cotton, depending on the thickness of the fibers probably, and it's the volume that matters here, not the weight. I just can't accurately measure volume, so I'm not gonna try. You got your wool cards or as open box ones, made them more affordable. What does open box mean? Never heard that term. You have one, but you don't trust it. You don't think it's right. Got it to weigh die. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. My other one purports to have fractions of a gram, but it also says a wildly different number every time I weigh it. So I don't trust it at all either. And I don't think that you're going to get an affordable gram or affordable scale that measures fractions of a gram. I think you'll just get one that lies to you about it. So I don't know. Now I will say, just in terms of carding experience, 3 grams was not good. I didn't like doing that. It was difficult. And even though the Rolag looks nice, or the Puni looks nice, I can't see myself doing that regularly because it was definitely hard on my wrists. So I think I'm gonna try spinning them right now before I go any further to see if it's worth trying to do more threes. Because if it isn't, then my whole trying to do some twos and trying to do some threes thing is not going to work either. So yeah, I thought this through, but I forgot one very crucial element. All right. Wow, we're already an hour in, and I'm just now starting to spin the gun. I don't think we're going to get a big skein on this one, folks. I'm getting that idea. I definitely do not have the time to do more than 2 hours for a stream today. There we go. Maybe. And I don't think I have the knees either. So we'll see. Oh, the box was open or damaged. That makes sense. Okay. I thought it was like a term for a specific kind or something. That makes perfect sense. It looks very cool though. Thank you and hello. Welcome to my stream. Wait, why? I always do this. I always pick up my hook when I actually need to be pre-drafted. It's like every single time I do that. It's not pre-drafting too terribly, but I'm thinking that 3 grams is gonna be, it's gonna be too much. Like from a prep perspective, not just from a physically using the cards while doing it. I already know it is from that. But I do think that sort of thing would change depending on the person. So at least worth spinning, certainly. Okay, that's probably good enough. So I'm gonna spin this one Samwise, and then if I do end up doing 2 scenes, which is questionable, I don't know if I will, but if I do, then I'll spin the other one Wise, which is opposite of how I did it last time. And I think that's probably the way to go because I don't want to be spinning the harder one first. And the Woolwise one is definitely harder. I don't want to be spinning that first because I feel like with cotton, at least at the moment, it takes me a little while to get into the groove of things. So I think it's quite possible that I had a harder time with the Woolwise one last time because I spun it first and I had to sort of warm up to spinning it again because it felt like it got a little easier. That's what I think. And it usually feels like it gets easier the more of it I spin. Here from Tumblr. I think everybody is, to be honest. I don't advertise that I'm streaming anywhere else. Nor do I have a social media presence anywhere else. But thank you for coming on by. It is very nice to have you. I think one thing that may eventually make me start using leaders is the fact that I always end up like ripping and sometimes kind of mangling the end of my cotton when I'm trying to tie it on. It's like every single time it happens. And it's not like I'm wasting it because I can definitely reprocess the fiber, but that doesn't mean it doesn't annoy me a little bit. Oh, come on. Don't be doing that. Okay, I can tell already the prep is not good. So that's good to know. I mean, I'm going to get to the end of it, and I'm sure I'll adjust my assessment slightly, but I haven't spun anything quite this bad off the first blank for a while. So I'm thinking it's not a good prep. Which makes sense. When I was loading it on, I was like, there's no way. Like, that's too much. So we have, I have this fiber arts group, I guess, which I didn't found or anything. I sort of founded it, but it's not really a founding thing. It's like we all just go and hang out, and that's the important part. So anyway, I have that group, and I haven't gone in a little while, to be honest, because I got my feelings hurt. But one of my coworkers, who I haven't had a chance to talk with very much because we work in different parts of the building, but she's very nice. She like talked to me about it because it has my name on the flyer as a contact person. She saw the flyer in the break room. She wants to learn crochet, I guess. And the thing is, she wants to learn crochet, I guess. And the thing is, I love watching people learn crochet. It's really interesting to me. Sometimes funny and sometimes just really like fascinating. And also like, I miss my crafting group a lot. So I think I might go back to see if we can teach her how to crochet. I'm not a great fiber arts teacher, I'm not gonna lie. Um, I think sometimes I'm really bad actually, and sometimes I'm just sort of like, well, it's better than nothing maybe. But luckily, my other coworkers, I think, like I've watched them teach, um, and they seem a lot better at it. So I'm hoping we can get that going. We haven't had any like pure beginners who don't know any fiber crafts, but not all of us do the same ones. Um, and so we're often teaching each other, like, well, here's the basics on how to try this craft that you've never done before, that I've been doing for 10 years, which is quite fun. So yeah, the next one's Monday. So I guess I have, oh, hmm, I'm not going to work on Monday again. I have another appointment. So I guess I have a whole ass week because the one after that is Thursday to decide whether or not I want to go back. We'll have to see. You don't know, the very beginning of your spins are also usually kind of a mess. Not sure it's the leader or not. I don't like it's not that the beginning is a mess. I mean, it is, but it's more that like when I'm physically tying it on, the bit that I pull on to tighten with cotton, because the staple length is so short and I haven't put any twist in yet, it just comes off. And then I readjust it, which is already annoying, and then it comes off again as soon as I pull it. And I think that is something that a leader would fix. But it's good to know that the beginnings of your yarn are messy even with the leader, because I did kind of assume that the reason the beginnings of my yarn were so messy is because of the leader, like whether it's wool or cotton or what have you, or because of the lack of leader rather. But if you also have the same problem, then maybe that's just how it is. I wouldn't be surprised if it sort of, it requires at least a yard or something of up time. That's what it feels like for me. You're terrible at teaching too. Yeah, bad fiber arts teachers unite. Bad at finishing projects, though your two complete crochet projects are a crochet chemise, or no, chamsa. I'm sorry, I don't know that word, but interesting. For your keychain, and you turned a crocheted lace table runner into a shirt and crocheted the pasties for it. That's cool. Sounds like quite fun projects. What is a, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation. What is a champsa? I've never heard of that. I like the idea of a table runner into a shirt. That is a very cool way to use something that otherwise is like, who the fuck uses a table runner? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't even eat at a table, so like I sit on my bed and eat. That's what I've done for years. I don't know. I'm not a table guy. But I've never seen anybody use a table runner either, except like in movies, maybe. Tablecloths, sure, but table runners are just decorative, so I have a feeling they might have fallen out of use. I guess that's probably the original, now that I think about it. Oh, Hamsa is close to the pronunciation. Makes sense. It's important to a few cultures and religious and protects from evil eye. Oh, okay. That's cool. I can see how that would be um, a desirable thing to crochet, I guess. I don't know if desirable is the right word, but like I think things of that nature, where they have some sort of significance like that, and especially where they're protective, it seems to work an awful lot better if you make it yourself versus if you buy one, like especially a mass-produced one. Like the handmade element, maybe this is just me, but the handmade element seems to sort of make it a little bit more alive and helpful. Like I have a couple of spinning gods, um, By gods, I mean like sculptures, and I keep them around, and they're important to my spinning. I have a couple of spinning gods, and the one that I like best, the one that is most important, is this really beautiful sculpture of a torso that my oldest friend made for me. And it's like the size of my hand, and I think it was an early project of his, so it's a little bit wonky, but it's so beautiful, and it means so much to me. And like the fact, one, that my friend made it, but then also that that it's handmade in general. Like when I hold it, it feels very alive. And I think if I had just found something suitable that hadn't been handmade, I don't think it would feel that way. You also eat in your bed. You only get so much sitting up time each day, and you'd rather use it for fiber arts. Fucking same. I'm sorry that's your experience though, because it sucks. But I know what you mean. You had a jewelry / metal style one, but couldn't afford to replace it, and you really wanted to make one with your hands, like you said. You lost the metal one. Handmade from a friend is so special and important. Yeah, for real. Handmade and from a friend is sometimes even more important than handmade by myself, because my other spinning gods, one of them's a rock, and to be fair, that one is quite alive too. And then another one is a little mass-produced statue, which does not feel super alive, but I'm attached to it, you know. It's a good spinning god. And then all the other ones after that I made myself. But it's the one that my friend made that is, like, if I could only keep one, that is 100% the one I would keep. No question. So I spun up that first puni already, the one that was exactly 3 ounces, and it was terrible. I do not recommend 3 ounces. That would be insane. 3 grams. I don't recommend it on this size of hand cards, for sure. And I think this is the biggest size they come in. At least as far as I'm aware, I have not seen anyone's bigger than this. So 3 grams definitely seems to be too much. This one that is somewhere in the range of 2 grams, I don't know exactly how much, is working a lot better. Even though it was also sort of falling apart when I was rolling it. Like this one, technically speaking, I didn't do a good job, but it feels like it's spinning up easier and a little better than the other one. So yeah, 3 is a no-go, I think. Having soup in bed right now, nice. Soup in bed is, I mean, that's a classic, no matter what. We love a good soup. That's the one, well, one of the main things that I miss about winter. It's like soup just does not hit the same when it's warm out. Maybe that changes if you like cold soup, but I am generally speaking not a cold soup guy. I like hot soup. Oh, roasted. Um, so I don't have soup in the summer, but I miss my soup. Spent a long time learning many soup recipes to eat. Although I suppose if I made soup year round, I'd probably get sick of it a lot faster. Like there's definitely something I prefer with my foods about having them be seasonal, even if I have to artificially like make it seasonal. Nonetheless, it's nice for it to sort of change in a predictable pattern. Like there's quite a few foods that I will make only in a certain season. Um, like tabbouleh, for example, which is one of my favorite foods ever. I only make in the heat of the summer, like at the absolute peak of the summer, when it's 100+ degrees when I make that. because that's when it's best. I'll have it at its best. And then conversely, something like barmbrack, that I only like to make in the winter because having a slice of barmbrack with a hot cup of tea is like incredible. But I can't really enjoy a hot cup of tea if it's hot. You are a cold soup enjoyer, but this is a warm soup. I mean, chili. Obviously, I know warm soup is good from my perspective, but chili, I love. So good. It'd be a lot nicer hot, but unfortunately, too hot out to enjoy right now. Don't eat soup except for when it's really cold, or else you overheat. That's how I am too. Like hot drinks, I don't drink unless it's really cold, or I overheat as well. Ooh, a cold smoothie along with a warm soup actually sounds like a decent combo, like from a temperature control idea, and a very good combo from a meal idea. Love tabbouleh. Tabbouleh is so good. Best summer food. Hey Zertra, you're not that late. This is literally only my second poonie, so like I'm definitely moving a little slower today. And we spun a pretty large amount of the wool batt to finish it off. But yeah, you're not super late, don't worry. And welcome in also. Your spouse makes a lentil salad in summer that you really like. Interesting. I've never thought of, like, lentil soup is one of my favorites, but I've never considered a lentils in a salad. That sounds quite good. I have to look into that. I do love lentils. One of the best beans out there. Okay, so that was 2. And yeah, as I thought, the 3-gram one, not great. Don't recommend, will not do again. The 2-point-something gram one, I mean, it was a bad prep, so, you know, it's whatever. I can't use that really for my test anyway, because I have no idea what the actual weight is. So we're going to do an exactly 2-gram one now. So basically, I'm going to get it up to 1, and then I'm just going to slowly put on pieces until it tips over to 2. And since it's pretty consistent about that, I think that'll be fairly accurate. Okay, so that's 1. Sorry, I wish I could show you guys, but it's also like not. It's just me tearing up pieces of cotton and putting them on a scale, so it's not the most interesting thing in the world. Okay. I'm noticing there's some play that seems kind of nonsensical here. But I think I've got very close to exactly 2 grams, which looks, I compacted down a tiny bit more. It looks like that. I had to compact it down because I just ripped it into super fluffy amounts. So, see, what I would like to do is get a feel for how much the ideal amount is without having to weigh it. Because I do not at all intend to weigh every single every single handful each time I do a cookie. I'm not doing that. That would take forever. It's already going to take a long ass time to spin this, so no way. So I want to be able to do it either by eye, which is probably not a good idea because it's about volume, which is very changeable. I think like if you compact it down, you can kind of tell from the density. I think that remains to be seen, though. Okay, so this feels more reasonable. Just in terms of, I'll show you guys in a second, just in terms of like how much I put on the cards, it feels like the lower amount that I've done, it's not very thick on there. You can definitely still see the tines in quite a few places. It's thick in some spots, but that's because I didn't load it on evenly because it doesn't really matter. So yeah, it's not much. The other one was like pure white and really lumpy, and you could tell it was overfilled. So yeah, we're just gonna card this up real quick. I try to keep the camera focused on me when I'm carding for two reasons. First, because otherwise you're just watching a non-moving spinning wheel, which cannot be that interesting. But second, because I tend to go back and rewatch these, and if I can see at least somewhat what I'm doing, I might notice patterns of like different techniques that do or don't work, you know? And so now that I've carded it too, it also is looking, again, quite reasonable. Not lumpy and nicely spread out. So yeah, I really, really wish I could do half grams. I suppose, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, if I put something that I knew weighed exactly half a gram on here, and then I got up to 3 grams, then I could do 2.5. And then I got up to 3 grams, then I could do 2.5 grams because I'd have 2.5 grams of cotton on there, right? Only problem is I don't have something like that. The closest thing I can think of is coins, maybe. But I'd have to research coin weights, which I'm not going to do while streaming. But that's something to think about, because that might be how I can make this work. And I imagine pretty much anybody could do that with the same tools, right? So that would be cool as well. Do I learn anything by rewatching myself carding? You know, you film yourself playing music for that sometimes. I think I do. Usually it's less that I'm like watching and observing and learning that way. Because usually I've already learned that thing if I'm doing it. It's more that I will forget things readily. And so if I rewatch a stream, I tend to find that a lot of the time there's all these things that I thought of and realized, and then I 100% forgot, probably a second later. And so it can help me it can help remind me. And then also, if I'm watching a stream, I can write down things, but I cannot do that while streaming. So yeah, it's got some pros to it. It's also sometimes mildly entertaining. I think it would be a lot more entertaining if it wasn't me doing it. I hope. I hope it's more entertaining than you guys than it is for me. It's not super entertaining for me, but it is sometimes entertaining. And it helps clue me into better stream conditions in terms of lighting and noise, because I have no idea what it sounds like right now. I will only find that out if I watch the stream. So you think coin's probably a few grams? I don't know. A dime weighs 2.2 some grams according to the mint. Okay, damn. That's crazy. I would not have guessed. By the way, so a dime weighs 2.2 grams, and it's small. And this is probably the equivalent amount of cotton, like the size of my palm. That's crazy. I'm always amazed by how little fiber weighs, but like this situation feels egregious. Well, there goes that idea. I didn't think they weighed that much, but good point. I mean, I don't know. Because they weigh way more than I thought, I suppose the room for error in terms of bits of it missing or grind being on there might be bigger. But even so, if I put a dime on there and then get it to 4 ounces, I know I have 1.8 ounces of fiber, right? So, but it wouldn't be a great control. I was thinking I was thinking I'd put like 2 or 3 pennies on there and see how much that weighs. Obviously not, though. Obviously not. Thank you for pointing that out. That's, again, something I hadn't thought of. I could set up a balance. Yeah. I mean, I want it to be simple. And I feel that, honestly, even putting a penny on there is kind of removing the simplicity already, because now you have to go find a penny as well. And I know a lot of people don't carry any change at all. Not me, but a lot of people. At least where I live. So I don't know. I think that would work in some places that have really light coins. I don't know what places those are exactly, but my sister has a coin box of like different coins from all over the world, and some of them are super, super light. Speaking, I really don't want to spin with my right knee because it hurts so bad. But also it squeaks. Oh, well, now it's going to squeak if I spin with this. No, just once as a warning. A single warning squeak. My wheel is such an asshole sometimes. Way, way more. Sounds like a tongue twister. That does, yeah. Do I need a precise amount of grams? Could I obtain that with some grains or something? Oh yeah, I guess you missed it. So the issue we're having is like, I'm working with between 2 to 3 grams of cotton. It seems to be that's probably the optimal amount, is somewhere between that. But my scale only is accurate to the gram. It does not have any finer measurement. It doesn't do fractions or anything like that. Like I could probably put a few grains of rice on there, but I would need to know exactly how much those weigh, and I couldn't weigh them with my scale because it doesn't go that fine. So basically, I would need something to control it, and ideally something that other people could repeat, because I do try to make what I learn accessible to others if they're interested. That said, if a penny is 2.5 grams, as Ciaro said, then yeah, I could put that on there and then go up to 5 grams, and then I would know, well, at least I'd have a better idea, more or less, that I'm getting 2.5 grams. How the coins are, so I 100% have pennies. The question is, do I want to get up and find it? I kind of do. I'm gonna keep spinning this, but you know, the other thing is this 2 gram one that I'm spinning right now feels pretty nice. It's working really well, miles better than the other two. Yeah, much better. I really like 2 grams. I almost feel like knowing that 2 grams is better. That's already quite useful info. And this I know is exactly 2 grams because my scale does not round things. I was testing it a little bit more, and yeah, it does just tip over. So it'll say 2 at 2.9 and 2.99, but once it goes to 3, it'll say 3. Which is actually more, really glad it has that feature, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do much with this at all. I'm surprised pennies are heavier than dimes. I'm surprised that either would weigh as much as they do. I have yet to get over that surprise, and until I do, I will not be able to comment on which I thought was heavier or lighter. So I'm going to spin another exactly 2 gram one, or at least as exactly as I can manage, and see if it was a fluke or not. Because it could have just been I had a really good prep that time. But that said, if I'm consistently able to achieve really good preps with a certain amount, then I should keep doing that, right? Like that's a good thing. So if I can get a amount that I'm really happy with multiple times in a row, I'm gonna stick with that amount, and that should probably be fine. Dimes are a bit smaller. I guess I just thought like, I mean, I'm kind of with Zertra. The more I think about it, that I thought um, I would assume that dimes would have been slightly heavier, or yeah, because like they seem denser to me. And I guess they are denser because they're also bigger, not proportionally lighter. But I don't know. I've never thought this hard about the weight of a coin. That's hard to say. I should stop evening this out so much. I've been evening, like just out of compulsion, I've been evening it out. But when I'm sitting down to make a whole bunch of punis, I know for a fact I'm not going to do that. So I shouldn't be doing that now either. Yeah, I do think would be able to get very specific amounts. I wouldn't be able to use it as freely as if I had a scale that measured fractions of a gram. But it might be worth exploring. For now, though, if I can get this 2-gram one to continue working really nicely, then at least I have a good base point, you know, and that's much more important than anything else, I think. Because even if I find out that like it is exactly 1.8 grams, exactly, that is the perfect amount, unless I have a way to very, very easily measure that, I will not ever measure it. And so it doesn't matter knowing that knowledge. It truly doesn't matter. So like I want to be able to consistently make good roll lags, which is not something that needs precision. It's just that having such a big margin of error makes it a lot harder to test, really. If that makes sense. This is also feeling easier. I mean, I knew that this would be true either way because it's true for wool and just sort of an obvious principle of how things work. But I knew that overfilling these guys would not help me in any way because that's how it is for wool. But it's kind of crazy, like how much more the fiber fights you trying to roll these off um, when it's overfilled. Whereas when it's not overfilled, I don't really have the breaking issue anywhere near as much, and it drafts off way easier. I don't need as much force. So that's good to know. It makes sense, and it's good to know that it is true. That got you checking euro coin weights, but they won't help you. Yeah, not really. Like I could get them for my sister almost certainly if she was willing to split it up and if she could find the box, which actually is a question. But it like it wouldn't help me, and I'd lose them. So you can't see yourself weighing that kind of thing out either. Yeah, that's the thing. But like I think the way that I would be able to tell is by gauging, like by memorizing or learning how that perfect amount of fiber, how it feels to process it and how it looks to process it. And then just trying to shoot for something like that every time I add some on. That's what I intend to do. Because that's how I do it with wool. And I find that that is very effective with wool. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, there's no way that I'm going to be particularly precious about oh, I already made one. Well, maybe I'll make another two. I'm not going to be that precious about making these things, especially weighing them, but just in any way, I don't intend to be precious about it because I'm going to have to make a couple hundred of these guys. So yeah, I'm going to be taking as many shortcuts as I possibly can. Hi, Chuck has stuff to say. Okay. some concerns because I'm looking at this, which is purportedly 2 grams exactly, and I'm doubtful. It feels like a hell of a lot less than the other one. It might just be more compressed in this section. I don't have a way to know, unfortunately. I'm gonna put it on the cards and see how it looks. But now I'm like, actually, maybe I totally misjudged and misunderstood what I thought I was seeing, and maybe it does not do what I thought. Alternately, maybe it's not that accurate, which the review said it was, and I thought it was. Hi, Chuck. But it could explain some of the bread problems I was having. Because I bought this to measure ingredients for bread. And there are quite a few bread ingredients where you are measuring 1 or 2 grams. Like salt, for example. Or yeast if you use yeast. So, yeah. Plus, when you're doing like specific baker's percentages, having 300 grams of water versus 305 grams of water actually does affect it. Like it affects your math and it affects the result. Now that I've put it on, I'm not sure. It looks similar to the other one I just did. It looks very similar. I guess the proof is in the pudding. We'll see when I'm done, maybe. Everything about this gets less conclusive by the second, so that's why at this point I'm not sure if I will see when I'm done. But that's okay. I'm still learning anyway. Even if I'm like, that's the big thing about this. Even if I'm not learning what I set out to learn, I do still end up learning anyway. Something. Just not the thing I wanted to learn. See, this is exactly why I like volume measuring and why I will never, like, okay, to be fair, yes, I bake using grams. I bake bread using grams, but only because I have to. You literally can't get it accurate with volume. But everything else, I measure in volume, and that is because volume does not confuse me. A measuring cup is a very simple thing, whereas these fucking scales are enigmas. They make no sense. To me, anyway. Yeah, these just pull off so much nicer when I don't overfill them. I do wish I'd realized that earlier, but there was too much data coming at me earlier. I would not have noticed. Would not have been able to figure it out. Okay. So, purportedly, these are, if not the exact same weight, then very close. And to be fair, they look very close. I guess I'll allow it. We'll see. They may well be identical. I guess maybe that handful was just a lot more compacted. I mean, it's quite possible. It's all different amounts of compacted, Okay. This is what? Spinning number 3 that I'm spinning? Yeah, the third one that I'm spinning right now. I don't know if we'll go up to 6. I'd like to. I usually do 6. My knees are killing me. So I don't know if I will. And we're already at an hour 40 pretty much. So we might spin both of these and then call it. Because this gives me a really good jumping off point. I know what this looks like on the cards, and I can definitely fill it that much by eye, which is what I wanted this whole time. So if both of these are really nice, that tells me that at least I can pick up the next time I make some of these, Now I wanted to ask, I don't want to ask on my Tumblr because I think a whole bunch of people are going to vote who don't actually watch my streams. and their opinion is not as important in stream-related questions. But I wanted to ask, would you guys rather that I finish off the wool on or off stream? I asked because I'm pretty invested in this cotton, but I need this bobbin clear. That's the main reason I care about finishing it, right? I need this bobbin clear, and I care a lot more about working on cotton right now. So I guess I'm wondering, is that also true for you guys? Would you rather that I keep my streams at the moment more focused on cotton? Because once I have all my ducks in a row, which in this case basically just means emptying off that bobbin, once that's the case, I'm starting the blanket spinning project without any further ado. So yeah, what's your preference? I could rest my knees. Oh no, world's worst at resting my knees. But that is that is very much something I would like to do. I just also can't really leave things unfinished like this. So I'm gonna finish what I have for the sake of my brain, because otherwise I'll just I'll stop the stream, I'll eat dinner, and then I'll go do it again and finish it off stream. And I just don't see the point in doing it. It's gonna hurt my knees either way, so it's whatever. Okay. So Ciarl and Zertra both want to watch the wool. Subs Spook Bungle. What a name. I love it. You're interested in the cotton more than the wool because that's about figuring it out, whereas I figured out wool already. Well, that is true. Definitely true for my experiments. But when I start on the wool blanket project, on the cotton blanket project, I will no longer be in figuring it out mode. I will be in churning out huge amounts of cotton mode. So I think the tone is going to change. The tone of versus what I'm currently doing, which is entirely exploratory. That will not be the case while I work on my cotton blanket. I don't know if that changes your answer. I'm curious if it does. I do plan on doing more exploratory things in the future on stream because I have always loved doing exploratory fiber things. And it makes sense to do it on stream because it looks like you guys really like that too. And it makes it easier for me to remember it later. I can just rewatch the stream. So I definitely plan on doing more. It's just my next project is not going to be that. I want a summer blanket. So I will definitely post pictures of the wool on Tumblr no matter what, for sure. Everyone's telling me to rest my knees. I will, okay? I promise I will. I just want to finish this. It will bug me so much more than my knees currently are if I don't. Thank you for for looking out for me. I appreciate it. September also having pain problems. Ugh, I'm sorry about that. That's always not fun. Spook Bungle says, I'm not often around during the time you're streaming, so I second posting everything on your Tumblr too. Yeah, that is a good point. I have several partly finished projects, or finished that I just haven't gotten around to, that were stream projects that I've posted nothing of it on Tumblr. And I need to. I just haven't. I haven't. Damn it! I haven't posted the wool that I'm spinning on Tumblr either. There's the thingy. There we go. But I do intend to. So yeah, don't worry. It'll all go on Tumblr eventually. And if I miss something, if you remind me, I will certainly put it on there as soon as I'm ready to. Because I don't have any interest in having this is my stream content and this is my Tumblr content. That's it's all just fiber arts to me. It's more just that I don't want to write all of this up for Tumblr, and so that's why I'm doing the actual exploratory stuff on stream. Because this is the format in which I'm doing it, so it doesn't add any extra work, really, you know. I hope that makes sense. So close. I know. I do have to fly this afterwards, though. So there's that. But flying it has only taken like 10, 15 minutes, even for the longer ones. And this is even less, so I'm guessing, I'm done with the noises. I'm guessing like 5 minutes of flying. So yeah, we are very close. We are almost done. It seems like I probably will do the wool on stream. Got a few more votes, and yeah, it sounds like Ciarlo and Zertra in particular want to see it get finished. Which makes sense because you've been watching me spin for a while, so probably a little bit invested. I'm also invested. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you guys were. So, good to know. Thank you all for answering. I do appreciate all the answers a lot. Zertra's down for every fiber. Yeah, me too. I'm glad you are. But I was talking about it a little bit earlier with Ciarlo that, or at least I was rambling while Ciarlo was listening. Maybe it was just that. I don't know. I want to try doing like I think the next experimental one I do may well be me testing out all of the plant fibers that I have access to see which of them, if any, and I think it will definitely be some of them, but which of them, if any, prefer to be spun samwise versus wool-wise. Like, have a strong and clear preference, you know? Because I really want to know, like, how much of that common knowledge, I guess, is actually true, and how much of it is just something that people haven't tested, but that is very easy to remember. Like, I could really easily see it being the case that some plant fibers strongly prefer to be spun samwise, not wool-wise. I could get that. And then maybe people start saying, like, they all prefer to be spun samwise, not wool-wise. Just because it's easier to remember that you just spin all plant fibers samwise, but not wool-wise, right? So, like, I could see that. I could see myself doing that even. It makes a lot of sense if things develop that way. But also, I have absolutely no clue whatsoever, and I won't have a clue until I actually test it. So I would really like to. Yeah, so that's the next exploratory one that I plan on doing. I might do another one first, but you know, I'd have to think of it first. So, and as much as I love doing exploratory things, I haven't done a lot of them because a lot of the time it's sort of like spin it and find out, and it's just like a one-off. It's not necessarily sitting down and doing a project, and the project thing is what I like. I've done it a few times, just it's hard to come up with ideas, you know? Spook Bungle says all fibers are beautiful. So true. There we go. Also, considering there's so many forged fibers, foraged fibers, you don't find info on. Very possible. Yeah, that's the other thing. Is like, I just flat out don't think that anybody in recent history has tested which way to spin milkweed fiber. I'm positive that native peoples in areas where milkweed bast fiber was abundant, I'm positive that it has been tried by people in those sorts of situations. I just don't think that it's knowledge that is accessible in the modern day. So that would be really, really cool to find out. That said, I have no way to process milkweed fibers anymore, unless my vague idea of rolling over the stalks with my wheelchair would work. which I doubt. I think I'm just gonna maybe catch fire to my wheelchair potentially. So I almost don't even want to try it because the fire risk is kind of high. I think like they didn't. There's an owner's manual, and it doesn't explicitly say not to use my wheelchair as a fiber processing tool. But I'm going to bet that they didn't consider anybody would try. So on that ground alone, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I even want to try it. It would be interesting explaining to my insurance that that is why they need to buy me a new car, Jerry. Like, no, thank you. Not the fire wheelchair. Yeah, it sounds it sounds bad, I think. Also, I'd be sitting in it, right? So if it caught on fire while I was sitting in it, that too would be bad for other reasons. Just a lot of ways it could go wrong, and even though I think they're improbable, I simply do not have good enough luck for it to be a good idea for me to test that. I am Irish. I have Irish luck. Things always go bad when they can. No, thank you. Okay. Finally flying. I absolutely cannot fly on my right knee, so we might have to endure the squeaking because I know this is going to be short. I apologize if that's what happens, but for the sake of my right knee, yeah. If you end up having to beg out early because the squeaking bothers you, I totally understand. I literally can't spit on at the moment, so I'm not gonna try. It could cause a new insurance clause. You're not wrong, um, but I think they'd be displeased that they'd have to write it. You just thought to look up what cotton fiber looks like under a microscope. It does not look like it has a twist. Interesting. That's really interesting. Okay, could you look up what flax looks like under or under a microscope? If there's any info, could you possibly do that for me? Because flax is the one that I've consistently heard that saying about the most. Is that flax in particular? Everybody seems to be in agreement that that one you have to spin it a certain way, and that's also the one that I've heard. Um, that I've heard the whole like you have to spin it a certain way because it grows with a twist to it. And so I'm curious. Flax does? I'm not sure if you've already looked it up prior to this or not. Can't quite tell. You've read something about cotton fiber being spring shaped and then spinning it catches. But there's reading and there's doing. Interesting. I don't think I've ever thought about or have had any information on what flax fiber or what cotton fiber looks like. So I have no preconceived notions. Um, I could see it being spring shaped. I don't know. I guess I have been like, if I had to guess, because even though now I know it doesn't have a particular twist direction to it, I still don't actually know what it looks like under a microscope. And if I had to guess, I feel like it would sort of look like a feather, like a mini feather, is what I'm thinking of. That's probably totally wrong. I haven't looked at most things down the end of a microscope. Uh, Possibly no things at all. I don't know if I really used a microscope. What would I think about it? Cotton does what? I'm not sure if I missed part of what you wrote. Oh, I misread. Sorry about that. Let me read it again. You just thought to look up what cotton fiber looks like under a microscope. Oh, it does look like it has a twist. Oh, sorry about that. completely misread it. No, thank you for correcting me, because I would literally have thought forever otherwise. I appreciate the correction. It is spring shaped. Okay, interesting. It has a twist and it's spring shaped. What direction is the twist going? Can you tell? Also, are microscopes mirrored? Because I guess if they are, then you don't know whether it's been corrected to be the right way or if it hasn't. So that might be an issue in telling which way. If flax does, you think it might be over too long of a distance. I could see that. Like, given that if you were to like try and look at an entire length of an entire flax fiber, especially a piece of strick, under a microscope, you'd be at it a while. So that, like, I could see that being the case for sure. See, if cotton is spring shaped, then that makes me wonder if one of the reasons why cotton roving is so fucking difficult to spin is because, like, when you make roving or top or anything like that, you are sort of necessarily stretching out the fibers a little bit. And also, especially if it's machine prepped, which cotton roving is, sometimes you can really stretch them out a lot. Whereas on my hand cards, yes, I'm stretching them out, but then I'm rolling them up again into a curl. And that makes a world of difference from what I can tell, like with wool as well. And so that makes me wonder if my issues with spinning cotton roving are just because it's been stretched out, that spring shape is no longer there, and due to that, they don't really catch. Because, like, that would really check out. Cotton roving is so incredibly slippery. It doesn't grab itself at all. That would be interesting. You don't know. You were wondering if it was mirrored too. Yeah, I guess the only way to know would be somebody tells you like whether or not that particular microscope is mirrored and whether or not they've corrected for it. Interesting. See, now I want a microscope just just to see if I can tell. Because you could totally put like a piece of yarn under there as a control to see whether or not your microscope is mirrored when you look at it. Because you'd be able to tell just looking at the fibers and the color whether what you're seeing is what it is or whether it's mirrored. But you would have to have a microscope to do that, and I certainly don't. We're almost done on this. Wow, it got way thinner and worse when I got to that very first spoon, which is the one that I massively overloaded with 3 whole grams. So an entire, is it 50% more? Yeah, it's 50% more than I put on the 2-gram ones, which is a lot. Nothing at the end, but that's okay because we've pretty much finished. So. Ooh. Laurel has a microscope, doesn't know where it is. Zertra has a microscope and a precise scale in a box somewhere. Oh, Ciarles is in a box somewhere. Interesting. Well, yeah, I wish. Oh, I think I misread that too. Today's not my day for reading. I think Zertra might just be listing things that we would need, which is a good point. A precise scale would be really fucking nice. But that said, like, I'm pretty satisfied with what I learned, even though at no point did we have a precise enough scale to really measure anything. It's very clear to me that 2 grams, specifically on this size of hand comb, which I put the dimensions of it down in the description. 2 grams on this size of hand comb is a good amount, and it's like noticeably better. Oh yeah, you don't have them, I just need them. Yeah, that makes sense. I was like, wow, I didn't know you were also a scientist. Okay, I'm gonna put on this fresh bobbin to be ready for, I suppose, for the wool. We're also gonna have to we'll probably do the wool prep on stream too, because otherwise I'd be doing it during my lunch break. And getting home Rolags is not that easy. I've tried, not that easy on the bus, especially when you're in a wheelchair. We're gonna steam this up and guess how much it is once it's steamed up with this the end. And yeah, that will do it for the stream. But we still got another minute or two for sure. Thank you all for watching. I think this is like the overall the most amount of people I've had on stream in a while. So I appreciate it. Also, it's been a lively discussion, which is always very fun as well. So thank you all for joining. Now, I know for a fact that my guess is not going to be correct because it never, ever is at all. It's always the most incorrect one out of everybody else. But I'm curious what we think this time. Like, it's for sure a smaller number of punis that I've put on, but 2 of them were overfilled beyond what I usually do. So there's that. And it might even out. And also, the first one that I spun got a lot thinner because it was a terrible goal. So, yeah, we'll see. Let me just give it all neat, and then I'll show you. Gotta tie things. Try and put it in camera if I can. Immediately, my hand migrates out of camera. Cyril says 12. I could see that. Okay, that should do. All right, here's what we got. Yeah, decent amount. I mean, it's not as small as I thought it would be. But it's also not very thick. All right, I'm going to count it now. You got a couple seconds to get your guesses. Oh, what's my guess? I haven't counted it yet. I'm going to guess. I don't want to guess the same as Seattle because that'll undoubtedly curse it. So I'm going to guess 8. I don't know. Zertra says 13. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Seattle was the closest, it looks like. Zertra, that means your streak is somehow broken. I didn't think I'd live to see the day. Wow. When you compare this to the other one that I spun a couple days ago, it has so much less active twist. It doesn't look under-twisted. I know you can't see. I just show anyway, just in case you magically have a computer screen that is better than my webcam is. It doesn't look like it's under-twisted, so I'm really confused. maybe it's more balanced. I guess that can and would affect it, right? If it's balanced, it wouldn't do that. So maybe that's why it's just like a more balanced one than I usually do. It also does not look in any way more balanced to me. So I don't know. Anyway, though, I'm gonna get this washed. There's not really anything to learn from knitting it up, I think, because we were just testing amount of fiber to add. So is that good or bad, though? Yeah, I wish I knew. That's always the question, isn't it? I have no idea if it's good or bad. I don't like it as much, if I'm being honest. Like, if I look at it compared to my other yarns, I think it's not quite as good. To be fair, because my knees are not great right now, it wouldn't shock me if I did a worse job spinning than usual, but I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, I think we're going to call it for the night. Thank you to everybody who watched and especially commented. It was a great stream. I think I learned quite a lot despite like none of it going right at all. So we're just gonna work on the wool for the next couple days until I get it all done, because I cannot be doing this with only 2 bobbins. It's not gonna work. I need all 3 of my bobbins. Really, I need 4 bobbins, but I'm not gonna buy another one. So yeah, 3 bobbins necessary. So we're gonna finish it up. And yeah, I mean, you'll know on my Tumblr when I'm back to doing just cotton, if that's the only thing you're interested in. If you're more interested in it, because I write what I'm doing in each thing. So. Good night, everybody. Have a great night. I shall also have a great night because I have delicious rice to eat. Good night.